Our educational system is supposed to teach people how to think for themselves. Difficult to do when people such as a professor at the University of Michigan uses her pulpit to educate young minds that there is nothing wrong with hating Republicans. Joining us to talk about this on Midpoint is reporter at the National Review, former digital editor for the Washington Times. Welcome in Katherine Timpf. Hi, Katherine. How you doing?
Hi.
Let's talk about this because
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Now, a part of me is like saying this is just a freedom of speech issue. The other part is this is kind of a dangerous line with people really inciting hatred. Where do you fall on this issue?
Well, we're not just talking about someone expressing their opinion on campus. We're talking about an official who has a certain amount of power, particularly to grade students in classes where the grading would be subjective in a communications class. So I don't think if I were a student, I would see this and be able to have, first of all, a comfortable classroom experience that I'm entitled to as a student, or to be certain that I'm being graded fairly.
You know, the title, It's Okay to Hate Republicans, was actually replaced with Why Can't We All Just Get Along? Now, the title on its own is inflammatory, but when we read the whole article, it's kind of innocuous. Is this yet another case of the PC police taking precedence over people's common sense?
I mean, the first sentence of the article is, I hate Republicans, and then the rest of the article is explaining why she thinks it's okay to hate Republicans. Again, I think it's really more about what her position is at the school. There's an anti-discrimination policy at the school that covers pretty much everything from weight, height, nationality, everything pretty much but a political affiliation in terms of this kind of intimidation, making it so you can't have a normal, comfortable classroom experience. I think we really need to look at what kind of classroom experience a student who was conservative would have in the classroom after reading something like this.
Katherine, what's your sense? Are liberal professors still pretty much dominant on college campuses across America, or are we getting more across the spectrum of people of all different sort of political beliefs?
I think it's pretty obvious that it's mostly liberals that are teaching in college campuses. Now, is that necessarily bad or something you can stop? I don't know, but what I do know is something like this is pretty obviously unacceptable for people on both sides, really. Because even if you're a liberal and you go to one of these schools, you're not going to be asked to defend your own arguments. So you're going to come out not really even knowing why you believe what you believe or being able to explain why you believe what you believe. It's important for everybody, no matter what you believe, to be exposed to different ideas and certainly not shamed for any idea such as, who you're voting for.
Do you think that the average conservative out there should be offended by this, or ultimately at the end of the day, do you just think this is a professor really stepping out of line?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's something that people really need to take a look at. I think it's a symptom of a larger issue. I don't really think most professors who don't like Republicans are really quite so clear as to write an entire piece explaining why and why they don't think it's or why they do think it's okay, to hate them. But I don't think a lot of people who are paying attention to what's going on should be really all that surprised by that if you take a look at what has been going on in college campuses. But again, I think it will make a lot of conservative students maybe come out as stronger because they're having to defend themselves all the time, but not if they have a professor who is, again, not treating them fairly. There's a kind of a fine line there. So.
All right, let's put this kind of aside for a second. In a perfect world, we be better served with professors that just straight deliver the lectures? Or do you think a little bit of partisanship, a little bit of opinion inside a lecture is a good thing?
I have no problem with opinion in a lecture. This is a little bit more abusive than that. And of course, it's not really possible to teach some of these classes without letting some of your own biases come out. I'm not saying everything needs to be a Scantron sheet kind of answer or question or anything like that. There's a difference between, saying this is my opinion. She's not talking about the issues here. She's talking about people. She's talking about hating a specific group of people. She's mentioned their personality characteristics and why they're antisocial and all those kinds of things. That's got nothing to do with the issues. So there's really no place for that at all in the classroom.
And quickly, Katherine, what can conservatives do to maybe balance the scales?
I don't know, but if there's anything you can do except to just stay educated and be able to respond to arguments where, other people might not be able to because they haven't had to. So try to see it as your advantage.
All right, something to think about as we head to the start of a new year. Katherine Timpf, thanks so much for joining us right here on Midpoint. Some really solid opinions, and we appreciate your input into the show. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we're coming right back right here on the Friday afternoon edition of Midpoint. I'm Ric Blackwell in for Ed Berliner.